Welcome to Red Eye. Hello everyone, I am Tom Shalhoub. Let's check in with TV's Andy Levy at the Red Eye Tease Deck. Andy?
Thanks, Tom. Coming up on the big show, voters are desperately searching Google to learn how to write in a presidential candidate. Guys, come on. It's not difficult. It's spelled L-E-V-Y. Do it. Plus, feminists are handing out cards to men who make them feel uncomfortable and or threatened. I've got mine right here, Tom.
Hey.
And finally, what are Americans' top 10 biggest fears? Find out where Andy doing such a good job guest hosting Red Eye that I don't have a job when I come back falls on the list. Well, that might be too specific to make the list. I don't know. Back to you, Tom.
I think it's too specific. Thank you, Andy. Let's welcome our guests. She puts the ill in millennial. Columnist and author of the new book, Government Gone Wild, Kristin Tate. He's big on Twitter and in Japan. Comedian Nick Mullen. He's brighter than a 100-watt light bulb. Co-author of Willpower and author of the column Findings in the New York Times Science section, John Tierney. And please welcome back the before picture for the Prozac commercial. Sitting right next to me is comedian Dave Smith. Okay, let's start the show. The children's magazine Highlights conducted a new survey of kids, and unlike the old days, these kids don't want to grow up to be president. 65% say they wouldn't want the job, citing things like too much pressure and too much attention to criticism. I don't blame them. Even at your best, half the country can't stand you. And look at our former presidents. They never look happy. And it's no wonder. After serving your country for 8 years, what do you get to do? You have to spend the next 20 constructing a library that no one will ever visit. You have to give vapid speeches to people who probably don't know what you're saying. And for the rest of your life, everywhere you go, these guys will be hanging around you. Well, those are Secret Service guys. I know it didn't look like them, but they were. What I found most interesting about this kids poll is their answers about what's important to them. Like, what about their country makes them most proud? Only 8% said because kids can get what they need here, while 50% said because of the freedoms or unique rights of Americans. They sound like little conservatives in the making. Kristin, does this encourage you?
A little bit, but I mean, I'm not surprised at all, Tom, that kids don't want to be president. I mean, like, poor little Billy, take little Billy. He walks into the room while the TV's on and he sees Trump calling Hillary crooked and the devil, and then he sees Hillary calling Trump a racist woman hater. I mean, the poor kid watches the TV and he goes, "Mommy, is the devil gonna be president?" I mean, like, the only ones who want to be president at this point are probably the schoolyard bullies.
Well, maybe Billy shouldn't be walking in the room when his parents are trying to watch TV. Right, Kristin? That's the problem. These kids, well, look, I never wanted to be president. Did you, John?
No, I did not. And I think it's great that kids do not want to grow up to be politicians.
You do?
I mean, why do you want your children to do that, really? My favorite answer in this thing was a kid. They asked him about being president, and he said, "No, I'm going to be a shark scientist." And I think that is a useful profession.
It is.
And it will help them deal with those fears we're going to talk about later.
Exactly. Well, look, we need shark scientists, and I mean, it combines two things I love. Nick, what do you think?
I just love that Highlights magazine is polling children, and that somebody got a phone call from somebody that was like, "Hey, this is Highlights magazine. Can I talk to your 8-year-old?" They're like, "Oh yeah, sure. This doesn't seem weird at all." Like, that seems like too much pressure, and they're like, "I'm going to let this phone call continue."
"Hey, little boy, you want to be president? I'll give you some candy if you say yes."
"Should I put him on speaker?" "Nah, he's fine."
Yeah. And then they ask the many follow-ups, because once you do one of those polls, they don't just ask the question. They have like 14 follow-ups, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, I want to ask you a question, but I have some facts here. Let's go to the next story. I want to get your take on this. While kids don't want to be president, many adults don't want to vote for one this year, at least one on the ballot. Google Trends data shows that online searches for how to vote for write-in candidates have jumped more than 2,800% in the last week. Turns out it's not complicated. You just write in a name. It's pretty simple, right? But what do you think? Why do so many people want a write-in option at this point?
Well, believe it or not, there's a few people out there who aren't satisfied with either of the two major candidates out there. I'm not one of them. I think either one of them would make a great president. But yeah, people want to write in somebody else, which is ironic because the Republican candidate is already a write-in candidate, essentially. Like, Trump would have been like a Mickey Mouse vote a couple years ago, but now he's the guy. Yeah, I don't know. I think both of these stories are great. They're really positive trends. People are seeing through government more than ever.
But here's the thing, though. But you're like candidate. You got the third-party candidates, right? Why do people want to write in so much when we got a third party?
Okay.
They're on the
right. Yeah. Here's why. Because I'm a libertarian, and even when you said your candidate, it made me a little uncomfortable. Like I was like, don't put him on me. Okay, he's not my candidate.
Isn't it funny? No one's happy.
The only thing people know about Gary Johnson is him stumbling in interviews. So it's people are still looking for other options.
Yeah, that's it, John. What do you think? I said no one's happy, but it's not true. Some people there's a segment of the population that wants another candidate, right?
Well, I think the best thing they could do is if each candidate, Hillary, Trump, and Gary Johnson, would announce it on Inauguration Day, they're going to step down and let the VP take over. Because we would then have actually three candidates that are decent: Bill Weld, Tim Kaine, and Pence.
Wait a minute, could they do that?
Why not? I mean, if one of them did it, there'd be pressure on the others because they know that the VP is far more popular than any of the three guys.
Well, I mean,
the three candidates.
They said it's too late. You couldn't. When Trump was having his troubles a few weeks ago or something, when there was the first bump, whatever it was, I can't remember.
Did Trump have a bad week?
Something happened. Something happened, and they said, "Oh, maybe now he could switch with Pence." And they said, "No, you can't switch." But what he could say is, you're saying he could say, "I'm running, but I promised to step aside." That's a little weird.
I will step aside on Inauguration Day. You know, when they hold up the Bible, I'll bring the other guy out.
That's pretty radical.
Just like Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trump seems like the kind of idea he would cotton to, right? What do you think, Kristin?
Well, all of this kind of reminds me of a famous Groucho Mark statement. He said, "I don't want to be a part of any club that wants me as a member." I don't want to vote for someone who wants to be president. I want to vote for someone who doesn't want to be president, because everyone who wants to be president, for the most part, is just like an egomaniac. And everyone hates Trump and they hate Hillary. There's a third option, Gary Johnson, but the most embarrassing part of this whole story is that Gary Johnson's just not even being given the time of day because he's been such a fool throughout his campaign.
Is that, you're saying it's his fault? It's not that the media is just, unwilling to...
Look, Gary Johnson has had 3 strikes. He had the Aleppo thing. He's like sticking his tongue out at reporters. Then he couldn't name a foreign leader. So, hey, I'm a libertarian and I don't even want to vote for the guy. I want to write someone in too.
Wow. What's happening, Nick? What's happening to our country?
I don't know. I guess we're supposed to be laughing at people who don't know how to write somebody in, but I don't know how to. Is there space for it? You just put it on there? I just think it's great. Like, think about all the money that goes in to, the election of the next president. Like, cumulatively, how much money goes into that?
It's $1 million
over the last, right. And then it gets to the end, they're like, all right, now you have to make the decision between these two people. Or, you just write something. So you can just write something.
But who would write it in? It doesn't, who goes to the poll and then writes it in? Why not stay home? That's the question.
And just write it on a piece of paper at home.
If you're writing in, you're not doing anything. No one no one's going to read it out.
I've never that question that you just posed. I've never heard a satisfactory answer to. Yeah. It's why I'm not voting in this cycle. I don't understand. I don't understand why the protest vote of voting for a third party. Why is it not just as much of a protest vote if I just don't show up?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. Okay, moving on. What are Americans' greatest fears? According to a new study, our top fear is corruption of top government officials. I wonder why. The next biggest fear is terrorist attacks, followed by not having enough money for the future. Other fears in the top 10? People I love dying. Economic or financial collapse. Identity theft. And at number 10, Obamacare. Well, that surprises me. Kristin, why wasn't Obamacare higher?
That's a great question. But look, Tom, when I see polls like this, if you believe the normal polls, you think Hillary's going to win in a landslide. But when I see surveys like this, it makes me think there's a lot of support for Trump under the surface that's not being expressed. Because, who's the poster child for government corruption? Hello, Hillary Clinton. Who's the poster child for terrorism attacks? Hillary Clinton. We all know she's the pro-terrorist candidate, Tom.
Yes.
But,
and Obamacare, the other thing.
And Obamacare. But this just proves that Trump has got to stick to the issues. He's got to stop talking about walker talk. He said this, she said this. He's got to stick to these issues because Americans care about these issues. And I think if he does that, maybe we could see a kind of Brexit thing. Before Brexit, the polls were showing that, England was going to stay in the EU by 5 points, but after it happened, they voted to leave by 5 points.
That's
so
it.
You never know what can happen.
Look, you never know what can happen. If Trump is down in the polls, I think he's going to do better than his polls. I just don't know by how much. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's interesting, though. I certainly...
You do know. Don't say you don't know.
All right, you got me, Tom. I know. He loses by 5. No, I think if you're still looking at what Donald Trump has done over the last year and a half, and you're counting him out, I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's pulled off something that none of us would have thought he'd be able to. So who knows what'll happen. I do think, the point is that people are seeing through government. Nobody's supporting Hillary Clinton's track record. Even Hillary Clinton supporters, there's no one who will actually defend her record. They'll just tell you Trump's so awful that we need to vote. Even Bernie Sanders said that. Our number one goal is just making sure Trump isn't elected.
Yeah.
So, I do think nobody is actually supporting these government policies anymore.
Yeah. I think, Kristin made a great point. She's saying every one of those fears, you can really kind of attach them to Hillary Clinton, right, John?
Right, but Trump has just got so many other fears. Probably all the other fears in that thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, what are the fears that you could, I think you're saying the people's fear is just Trump. The people who are afraid of Trump, they're afraid of him. Is that what you're saying?
Right. He's just so bizarre, I think, and he's so unlikable that at some point people just, you have to feel some respect and some degree of likability for someone, And people also just have such irrational fears to begin with, like this stuff about terrorism that people worry about. That it's number 2. It's much more dangerous to get in your bathtub than to be attacked by a terrorist. Really.
Yeah.
The odds of that, it's like being struck by lightning, dying in a terrorist attack for an American.
What about a shark? A shark scientist would say it's not.
Well, thank God we have shark scientists.
Exactly. Nick, what did you think of this? Fears? What are your fears?
There's terrorism is on there like 4 times.
Yeah.
You can't, if that would not be an acceptable Family Feud round. You get dinged.
Well, fears of terrorism, a terrorist attack, they're all on there, right?
But the good news is the clown fear is way down. It was the number... only 8% of Americans are afraid of clowns, and only 10% are afraid of zombies.
And we've been having clown attacks.
They're at the bottom.
We've been having a bunch of clown attacks.
So Americans
recently.
are standing up to clowns.
If you look at the actual data, ISIS attacks are down and clown attacks are up.
I'm serious. There's been like 8 stories about clowns hanging out behind apartment complexes.
Believe me,
people.
we've been covering them. But Nick, are you trying to tell me that Americans their fears are inflated? They're exaggerated.
Probably. He's right about the terrorist attack. Likeliness of being in a terrorist attack is less than lightning strikes. And actually, I remember learning that in 8th grade, and then for 2 weeks I was terrified of being struck by lightning. So I don't think that helps.
Still am.
You have to pick something that's more likely that won't kill you.
Yeah, but if Hillary becomes president, terrorist attacks will become more likely. She wants to let in tens of thousands of unvetted migrants, and that's what people are so terrified of.
You know what else will increase under Hillary? Lightning strikes.
Taxes.
And clown attacks,
exactly.
too.
Definitely clown attacks. Okay, moving on. Feminists at Sierra College in California are serving up citations to men who harass them. Members of the Feminist Club handed out cards that women can give to male students who engage in behavior that makes someone feel uncomfortable and or threatened. The card reads, "You have received this card because you did something that made me feel uncomfortable and or threatened." And there's a checklist of offenses, including whistling, kissing noises, psst noises, making comments like, "Hey baby," or "Smile," honking or shouting for my attention, making unsolicited comments about my body, racist, homophobic, or transphobic comments, and last and definitely least, invading my space. The card concludes with the statement, "This is harassment. Stop harassing." Oh, great. Now, what am I going to do with my Mr. Microphone?
Hey, good looking. We'll be back to pick you up later.
John, do you remember when that was not considered harassment? Driving around, picking up girls with your Mr. Microphone? You just needed an FM signal. That's all you needed.
But if only there'd been cards back then, it would have made the movie so much better. Getting the card.
But, okay, is this more kind of campus outrage?
Well, yeah, Feminists on campus are laughing stocks already, but this is the first good idea that I've heard from them, actually. I like it because I think handing out cards is a great idea. I did this once. I'm going to call them for the New York Times. I put on this soccer referee jersey, and I went around Times Square handing out yellow cards and red cards to people who were doing jerky things, like littering, throwing gum down, obstructing the sidewalk, making noise. And the amazing thing was I would just go up to strangers, and they actually would react, and they'd say, "I'm sorry," they'd stop doing it. And I think it's good to call people out on bad behavior. Now, I mean, a lot of this feminist stuff is probably stupid, but it's a better thing than like going on the web and on Facebook and posting comments. Actually, go up to someone and give them a card. I would love to give a card to people who have loud cell phone conversations.
When you did this, when you went around giving your cards to people, was this in conjunction with the New York Times or the Nickelodeon network?
It was kind of a joint
It's an interesting assignment from the Times. Nick, what do you think? Did you ever get one of these cards?
No, not personally, but I'm worried about the quality of that card stock. Those are going to become collectible pretty quickly. It's like Fleer Ultra Harassment cards. It's going to turn into a drinking game. Some freshman's going to get alcohol poisoning because he tried to get the most cards. It's a shot for however many cards you get. You make books.
That's it. You'd want to. Once you get a couple of checks, you want to get checked in every category.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then when the 10th one, you get to have sex with them for free.
Exactly.
Get it stamped.
It's like with the free coffee after 10 punches in the card, right?
I feel like there should be one of those checks should be like an actual horrific crime. There should just be like, you shouted for my attention or whistled at me, and then one's like, you murdered my father. Yeah. Wait, what?
Exactly.
No, it's just people get feminists or whatever you want to call these crazy third wave college feminists. They just pick these battles and act like they're these tremendous struggles, and they're always nothing. Like you could almost answer any modern feminist's complaints with just grow up and get over it. Does someone make you feel uncomfortable?
Than other college kids. I mean, I would prefer this than going around telling people they just discovered Pink Floyd and how great they are.
Yeah, look,
this at least means something. I mean, of all the dumb, obnoxious
this is just
things.
sanctimonious feminists, and I want to say something about whistling as a woman. You know, if a homeless guy or a construction guy whistles at a hot girl on the street and completely ignores her ugly friend, only one of those women is going to be offended, and it ain't the cute one. The only thing more offensive than being whistled at is not being whistled at. And that's why I hate going out with my super attractive friends. I have this one friend, she's like a freaking supermodel, and when we go out together, she gets all the whistles and I get very offended.
How do you know you're not getting the whistles? You're assuming
Trust
that.
me, you know.
That's the thing, whistles are very democratic. You know, they
when
go
you're
out,
not getting the
You
whistle.
don't know who's the target of the whistle. In fact, they should encourage men, if you're going to catcall, just whistle instead of making specific comments.
I mean,
I just am glad that, Kristin, you've given the men of America the permission they need now. You're saying that it's okay to whistle at women. I mean,
women love attention, Tom. They will act like they're offended, but they secretly love the attention, and they are so offended and mad when they don't get that attention.
How about if men started making cards that say "I would you," and then they hand it?
That's what you need.
That makes sense.
That's what you need. Coming up, is this a drone camera or have magicians finally mastered levitation? Find out right now. It's a drone. Are you self-obsessed but struggle to find friends to follow you and film your every move? Well, you're in luck. Meet the hover camera. The drone-like flying camera is the size of a paperback book and can soar for up to 10 minutes at a time. It uses face detection software to follow you and document your every move. Now, if you're thinking you can use this to spy on people without them noticing, you might want to think again.
It's very loud, but the design is pretty sleek, and it's very cool. I mean, I want to take autonomous selfies.
Yeah, it's very cool, like that guy says. I don't think there's anything annoying about a screaming camera following your head all day at work. Is there?
I'm not quite prepared to let that guy be the arbiter of cool, but I don't know him personally. But yeah, no, that seems like I feel this way about most new technology. Like, I'm not one of the people who sleep out online for the latest iPhone or whatever. That looks like it will be cool by the third incarnation of it.
It's got to be silent first, right? You can't have a screaming spaceship next to your head at work. I just don't think it works, right? John, the video that it gives you, though, I think we're seeing some here. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you, for some uses, but
I guess, but who is going to actually? I mean, I can see Donald Trump would like to have every move of his choreographed, but is he
really?
going to go?
I think he's had a little trouble with every move.
But his public moves here now.
Yeah.
But is he going to go home at night and think, God, let's turn on that movie and watch myself walking around all day?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine inviting your friends over? Oh, come on over to see what I did today.
Yes.
And showing this. I mean, who's going to actually watch this stuff?
That's it. I've done that. I got a GoPro, and you can't see the GoPro stuff. You got to. I mean, you can if you get the app or whatever. But you take it home, and you're supposed to load it up and then look at it. But I won't look at any of the footage. I shoot things. I went down a water slide with my family, and I shot it on the GoPro, and then I took it home and I put it on, and I wasn't interested. I didn't want to look at it. Nick, what do you think of this?
You got to figure out a way to make the screeching noise into a whistle, and then you use it to harass women. That's the killer app. I don't know what that term
My
is.
drone is racking up cards left and right.
I'm on my way to Silicon Valley. I'll see you guys later.
Kristin, if you had this device come up to you and it was whistling at your friend instead of you, would you be offended?
No, I'd look right at it and I'd blow kisses into it. But as far as I can tell, Tom, this is just a $600 selfie stick. I mean, what the heck does this thing do that a selfie stick doesn't do? Just take your camera, put it on video mode, and you've saved yourself $600 and you have the exact same thing. I just don't get the point of this thing. I guess I can see how like some athletes might want to use it, maybe a runner. But for the masses, this is just like for the Kim Kardashians of the world who want to look into a camera while they walk into walls. I just don't get it.
Yeah, coming up. Everyone's favorite ombudsman. Halftime with TV's Andy Levy is next. And don't forget, there's a new Red Eye podcast available. Subscribe on iTunes and on foxnewsradio.com. Welcome back. Time to find out what we got wrong and what we missed from TV's Andy Levy over in the Red Eye News Deck. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good.
Excellent. Got any big weekend plans?
I don't have any big weekend plans.
Okay, then. Kids don't want to be president. I'd like to point out that I spelled kids, I don't know if you can see this, I spelled kids with Z.
That's cool.
Kristin, you said you're not surprised at all that kids don't want to be president. They see Trump calling Hillary crooked and the devil, and Hillary calling Trump a racist woman hater.
Yes.
What's wrong with them hearing the truth?
There's nothing wrong with it, but the truth is very frightening.
That's a fair point. Absolutely. Nick, I enjoyed the hell out of your impression of how the highlights phone calls must have gone. Highlights Magazine did this survey.
You.
So I kind of hate to do this. I'm just going to point out the survey was done online. Yeah. I'm going to have to ask you to leave now.
Okay.
So it was unscientific, Andy.
Yeah. No, it was scientifically done online.
Oh.
Yeah. Along the same lines, Dave, your creepy, hey little kid, I have some candy, want to answer some questions thing. Way too realistic.
Yeah, no, I was prepared for it. I made it real.
By the way, none of you brought up the most important part of this survey, which is that 70% of the kids want to repaint the White House a different color. 36% blue, 22% red. Those are your two leaders. Nobody cares, really? Symbol of our great nation, defaced, and you all sit there with your smug little grins.
Well, look, they didn't suggest it. They asked. I thought they were leading the. What do you call leading the witness? They shouldn't have asked. They said, "Should we paint it a different color?" The kids say yes.
Okay, all right. People are Googling how to write in a candidate. Dave, you said you don't understand why people would want to write in a candidate. We've got two great candidates. I feel like, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be way off on this. I feel like you were being sarcastic.
I was.
Okay.
I was indeed.
Wanted to make sure.
No, they're awful.
Yeah. John, you said the best thing Trump, Clinton, and Johnson could do is announce that if they win, they'll step down and turn over the presidency to their vice president.
Yes.
So I guess you're not a fan of John Mubaraka?
Who?
That's Jill Stein's vice president.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. You got me there.
All right. Also, Tom, you asked if they could do that.
Yeah,
They absolutely could.
they could do it.
Yeah. Kristin, you said you don't like Gary Johnson, and you said you would love to write in somebody. Are you off the Trump train?
No, I'm like kind of half on it. I'm still riding the Trump train. I'm just also realistic, and I kind of know Trump won't win.
Okay.
But I only like Trump just because I hate Hillary. But we've had this discussion
Okay,
before.
yeah, I was just curious. Nick, you made a good point here. It feels like we're supposed to be making fun of people who don't know how to write in a candidate, but it's actually a good question. I have no idea how you write somebody in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. Do you know?
No, that's why I said I don't know.
All right.
I think there's a line. You just write them in, right?
There is.
I mean, I assume that's how it works, but...
In local elections, my dad writes in our dog every single election for mayor.
Has the dog won?
Yeah, our neighbors do it too. The dog always gets like 5 votes.
Oh, that's excellent. Wow. Americans' biggest fears. Kristin, you said this list shows that Trump needs to stick to the issues because
Yeah.
they sort of back him up. Yeah, he can't, though.
Well, that's because of the media.
Oh,
the media is
no, it's
obsessed with talking about candidates raping kids, raping women. I mean, that's all they talk about. They don't talk about the issues.
Yeah. Was it the media that brought all of Bill Clinton's people to show
Trump
everyone?
was defending himself,
Oh,
Andy. I'm sure
okay.
you would have done the same.
Okay, absolutely. I don't think I would have done what either of them has done in the first place. Dave, you said if you're looking at Donald Trump and counting him out, you're crazy. Call me crazy.
Okay, fair enough. It doesn't look good.
It's
but,
over.
Okay,
It's
in the
way
first 2
over.
weeks of the primary, weren't you just like
No.
me and everybody else who thought
No,
Trump would probably be out?
After New Hampshire, I said to a friend, I said, this is over.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should rephrase that. Not after the first 2 weeks of the primary. After the first 2 weeks of him being a candidate. Okay, back a year and a half ago.
Right.
Who would have thought he would still be here now?
That's true, but once people started voting, I said early on, I said, I do not see a firewall. I didn't even know what a firewall was. I just knew I couldn't see one.
Okay, he is still one fainting spell away from being president.
I don't even know at this. I used to think that. I'm not even sure
It's a
anymore.
long time till election day, Andy. It's a long time.
Way too long. John, you pointed out that only 8% of Americans pick clowns as a big fear. Yeah, it was second from the bottom of the list. The very bottom, only 6.8% fear others talking about them behind their back.
And that I thought was naive because that's a genuine fear that most Americans should have.
Well, I would never tell them this, but they're wrong. Absolutely. By the way, the same percentage, 10.2, said they feared a significant other cheating on them as did fear zombies.
Interesting.
This was my favorite part of the survey. They asked Americans about levels of belief in 9 different popular conspiracy theories. 54.3% said the government is concealing what they know about the 9/11 attacks. 49.6 JFK assassination, that the government is concealing stuff. 42.6 alien encounters. Moon landing, only 24.2. I don't get that. Way too low. Way
It's
too
one of
low.
Andy's favorites.
30% Obama's birth certificate. So now we know what percentage of the vote Trump will get. Feminists are issuing citations. John, you actually thought this was a good idea, which at first I thought was nuts. Then I remembered I carry these cards around with me. Do we have a picture of that card?
That is great. That is brilliant.
By the way, we can take that. I'm not kidding. I have the card right here. Got a whole box of them.
That is great.
Yep, hand them out a lot on the subway. I have a lot of bruises. Nick, you don't get to have sex with them after you get 10 checks on the card.
Yes, you do.
I can't emphasize
My
this
card,
enough.
my
It's
rules,
not
buddy.
how it works, man. It's not how it
I don't
works.
care. I'm bringing it into the coffee shop. I'm trading it in. No one can stop me. The customer's always right.
And this hover cam that records your life. This is why we have a Second Amendment. So you got to shoot these things out of the sky.
People get in trouble, Andy. They're shooting drones, and
They should
get
be
in trouble.
shooting drones.
I know. I would shoot a drone, but
Yeah.
people, they get cited for it.
Well, they shouldn't.
I know.
Anything else you want to talk about, Tom?
No, just
You want to talk more about the conspiracy theories that were on the list?
I don't believe in many of those conspiracies.
You don't?
No.
You don't believe the government is hiding plans for a one world government?
No, I don't.
32.9% of Americans do.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. 27.8% believe the government's covering up something in Justice Scalia's death.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought
That was fishy.
It looked a little fishy that weekend, but I think we looked into that.
No, he was a young man in good health.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. He weighed like $120.
But wait, what did you say? You said the conspiracy was that the government is keeping information about 9/11?
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not
I
even
agree.
a theory.
No, that is true. Yeah. That is absolutely true.
So the percentage of people who don't agree with that are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm done.
Thank you, Andy. Yep. Coming up. During the break, I'm going to grow some facial hair, and then we'll be back with author Brett Smith. Clinton Cash is the new graphic novel inspired by Peter Schweitzer's New York Times bestseller. If you can't stand the Clintons, but you hate reading even more, this book is for you. I'm here with artist Brett Smith, the editor and creative director of Clinton Cash, a graphic novel. Brett, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We got the book here. I want to kind of open up the book for the guests and kind of go through some of the pictures inside it. The first one I selected, The Lincoln Bedroom Goes Global. Tell me what this book is about.
The book takes Peter Schweizer's original book, Clinton Cash, and we retell it through graphic storytelling and through graphic novel format. And The Lincoln Bedroom Goes Global is about how the Clintons originally kind of had a dry run in the White House with Charlie Tree.
Yes.
And taking in foreign money and foreign donations. And
I almost forgot about those scandals.
Right. And once they were out of the White House, the shackles were lifted, and they were able to go and do this on a global scale with foreign leaders and dictators and despots all over the world.
Okay, another picture. Hillary Clinton and she meets with Putin. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Trump and his connection to Putin and the Russians, but what a lot of people don't realize is Clinton has gotten very close to the Russians, correct?
She's already done business with Putin. She was responsible, when she was Secretary of State, for the transfer of 20% of all of the U.S. uranium to Russia. And at the same time, there was about 9 Russian investors that were funneling $145 million into the Clinton Foundation. So, I mean, this is the pay-for-play that everybody talks about, and the difference is that we make it more accessible and more understandable through the graphic novel version.
Yeah, now the investments, the Russian investments, they were made possible by the CFIUS, that's the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. Hillary was on the committee, correct?
Right.
Now, the reason I understand this is because this stuff, it confuses me when I try to read it. But when I see it in graphic novel form, I mean, I'm not a dummy, but there's so much information.
This stuff is really complex.
Yes.
And it's very hard material to understand, and that's one of the reasons why we did the graphic novel, was to make it more understandable and also to make it, have it retain the retention rate in people's minds. So, you plow through Peter's original book and you can get lost in it. With this, with images, which are funny and ironic and satirical, they really stick with you, and it helps you understand and retain that information.
One of my favorite images in the book, Rainforest Riches. Let's put that one up.
That's a great one.
I know, this was the Colombia Free Trade Agreement. People don't remember that Clinton, she was against the Colombia Free Trade Agreement.
As a candidate.
Yes, right. But then she became Secretary of State, and what changed her mind? There was talk about the breakfasts.
Well, they both met with President Uribe on the same day.
Yeah.
Bill met with him first. President Uribe reached out to Bill to bring more normal relations via trading with Colombia, and reached out to him through speaking fees.
That's right. So they hire, and this is what happens with the Clintons. They get hired to speak, the money, and then they get this enormous money. They make a big donation to the Clinton Foundation,
right,
the charitable foundation. So it's kind of like a mixture of business, politics, and charity.
Well,
right?
and after the speaking fees, Hillary comes in and she approves these trade relations, and they bring in, they start drilling for oil out there. They start logging permits, and these same companies that come in to do the logging and the oil make another donation, somewhere in the realm of $4 million, back to the Clinton Foundation.
And now she loves the Colombia Free Trade Agreement.
She loves it, absolutely.
Okay, now this book really, it takes the Clintons apart with humor, and you don't see this in the right wing a lot. Now,
right.
Why do you think that the right has had such trouble dealing with kind of comic stuff like this?
I think that the right has kind of seeded the culture war by not participating. Once in a while you get an American Sniper, you get a Lone Survivor, and then you also get our book, which has been very successful. And I think when it's done right, when pop culture is done right on the right. There's a real hunger and real thirst out there for it.
Okay, well, let's look at a couple of more stills here. The Clinton blur, put that one up there.
Yeah.
That's about the, basically you don't know if it's business, you don't know if it's charity, or you don't know if it's...
They're all kind of the same.
Yes.
It's all blurred into one. Is he a politician? Is he a businessman? He's kind of both.
And we got one last one, Warlord Economics. Put that one up there. This is that Hillary shopping for jewelry?
Yes, shopping for blood diamonds, actually. That's a classic one.
Is great. I mean, the book it's got lots of information. It's funny, and for people who don't understand, you know that there's scandals going on here, but you can't wrap your mind around them. Get the book, you'll figure it out. Thanks so much for being here, Brett.
Thank you, Tom.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye. Coming up on the next Red Eye, Ebony Williams, Joe DeVito, Mike Vecchione, Charles Cook, and Mike Baker. The future is here, and it's adorable.
ちょっと休憩しようよ。わわわわ。びっくりした。オムライスってどんな感じ？オムライスって好き？
That's the new Kirobo Mini. Japanese car maker Toyota designed the 4-inch robot to provide companionship for lonely people. The company explains, he wobbles a bit, and this is meant to emulate a seated baby which hasn't fully developed the skills to balance itself. This vulnerability is meant to invoke an emotional connection. So what's the palm-sized pal saying? Here's the translation.
ちょっと休憩しようよ。わわわわ。びっくりした。オムライスってどんな感じ？オムライスって好き？
Nick, would you buy one of these? It seems kind of cute.
No, why is it sitting in a vagina?
I think it's like
come on, that's what that is.
It's like a baby blanket, I think.
Yeah, show the other picture.
Yeah.
It's in its container.
It has, and you can take it out. Look, I think
who's like lonely, but they're like, I'm lonely for a baby. I want a baby around to be my friend.
No. It's very Japanese, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, there it is.
People who want to be caretakers, they want to take care of something.
Yes,
Yeah.
that must be it. I think this is going to be a fad, though, Tom, kind of like Furbies.
Yeah.
Remember Furbies?
Yeah.
I had 3 of those when I was a kid. They lived in my closet, and I loved them. And I remember one night I was laying there, and it was like 3 a.m., and my mom slammed the door down the hall, and one of my Furbies woke up and started talking. Then the other 2 started talking. I thought there were demons in my closet. I screamed. That was the end of Furbies. And the same thing is going to happen with this. They'll be popular for one Christmas. All the rich Japanese kids will get them. Next Christmas, it'll be like, they'll be history.
I think your Furbies were demons. I didn't know they could wake up like that.
Yeah, when they hear noise, they respond. So like one of the Furbies heard the door close in the other part of the house and woke up at 3 a.m. It was terrifying.
That is kind of creepy. John, I think people are going to need companionship. I mean, it's true. People are lonely in this digital age.
Definitely. I mean, don't you think that one of them would be good on the show? You could have it like right here on the table.
I wouldn't mind it.
Who would agree with you?
Yes.
Probably say.
Exactly, or at least we could pretend. Sometimes I do that anyway. Do you ever notice, Dave, I pretend the guests agree with me when they obviously don't?
I have noticed
Leave it in
that.
Japanese the whole time.
Exactly. Oh, is that Japanese?
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a different language. No wonder I couldn't understand it. But Dave, this is this is the future. People are going to have robots help, take care of them, and they will take care of them.
Well, I just want to make it clear, Tom, that I don't agree with you.
What?
Try to spin that one.
I can't.
How Japanese was it when they said it's designed to invoke an emotional response? It's just such a conformist culture where they're like, you are allowed to feel feelings now.
Yes.
I don't know. This is creepy, but Nick made a really good point. That first pouch really did look like a vagina. The more you had that up there, it's almost like they were blatantly trying to make it.
I thought this was going to be a sex thing until they said it was about friendship. So, that's what I thought that was.
Well, the Japanese are creating really realistic-looking sex robots. I read about this online, and it's terrifying. There will be no social culture at all in Japan in a couple years because men will have no reason to go out. They'll just go home to their porn star-looking sex robot
And hang out with their
they're going to import them. It's not going to be just Japan. If they're that realistic, something tells me they're Shipping them over here.
Coming over here soon.
Very special thanks. Kristin Tate, Nick Mullen, John Tierney, and Dave Smith. That does it for me, Tom Shalhoub. I'll see you next time.